Canada is the second largest country in the world. From coast to coast, 9.9 million square kilometers cover this land. 300 provincial parks and 41 national parks protect and preserve Canada's distinct ecosystems. Garibaldi Provincial Park is British Columbia's most visited wildlife park. The park is fire and ice, home to hundreds of volcanoes and glaciers. At British Columbia's northern limit is Liard River Hot Springs Provincial Park, a wilderness oasis off the Alaska Highway. And at Wapusk National Park, a subarctic tundra in northern Manitoba, Canada's polar bears need help. This is Garibaldi Provincial Park. It's a haven for outdoor enthusiasts. Located 70 kilometers north of Vancouver, British Columbia, the park is adjacent to the world-renowned Whistler Blackcomb area. But there is one major distinction between the two. Unlike Whistler, Garibaldi's 2,000 square kilometers are protected from commercial development. Here, the backcountry is in its natural state.
The word is out that the backcountry is an amazing place to be in, provides solitude for the busy lives people lead in the city. You can get away from technology, and I think people more and more are looking for that escape from technology and the busyness of their lives. I think the most surprising thing that visitors find when they come to Garibaldi Park is the beauty of the place and how easy it is to get to. The more people that come up here, everybody goes away and shares their stories with their friends and their family.
Garibaldi is known as the park built by fire and ice.
Fire and ice is a common term with local visitors or those familiar with the geological history of the area. Fire and ice created the landscape that we see around us today.
The park is filled with mountains, glaciers, and volcanoes.
What makes Garibaldi so special is this fantastic interplay between volcanic activity and glacial activity that occurs in the park, and the features that were left after the Ice Age.
The park's namesake, Mount Garibaldi, stands at 2,700 meters tall.
Mount Garibaldi, or Mount Chakai, is a very high volcano, one of the highest features in Garibaldi Park.
Its eruption thousands of years ago covered the area now home to the town of Squamish, British Columbia.
A lot of the lava and the ash that came out of the volcano landed on the ice, and then as the ice melted away, that all collapsed and formed a series of big landslides that came down into the Squamish River Valley, where Squamish is now located.
The Black Tusk is one of the most famous volcanoes in the park. It is almost 30,000 years old.
When that ice age happened, it removed a lot of the original, volcanic edifice and left just the black tusk, this tower, intact. And that's part of a lava flow that was just a little bit harder than the rest of the volcano and now forms the main summit of the mountain.
One of the best views of the park can be found on top of Mount Price. The mountain reaches a staggering 2,052 meters at its highest elevation. This volcano erupted more than 10,000 years ago, sending two big tongues of lava down the mountain.
The lava flowed down, formed a natural dam across the Rubble Creek Valley, about 2 kilometers thick, and that then allowed Garibaldi Lake to accumulate behind that. The lava then continued down, and it came up against the remnants of the ice that still filled the main Cheakamus River Valley, the big valley behind us here. And as the ice melted, it left this big lava cliff. And that lava cliff, which we refer to as the barrier, it periodically collapses. The front face of that is unstable and it collapses and causes landslides to go right down the Rubble Creek Valley.
Today, the area surrounding Mount Price still shows signs of magmatic heat, indicating that lava is flowing under the surface. Surrounding these volcanoes are more than 100 glaciers.
Sphinx Glacier is another alpine glacier on the south side of Garibaldi Lake, and it's significant because it also has seen a tremendous amount of glacial retreat over the last 100 years or so.
The Sphinx is not alone. Glacial retreat is occurring throughout the park.
Many of the smaller glaciers have either disappeared or are on the verge of disappearing. A good example is Helm Glacier. It's a very well-known glacier in British Columbia, and at the rate it's thinning and retreating, it will be gone in 2 or 3 decades.
Helm Glacier has retreated more than 30% in the last 25 years.
My research, I've seen pictures of the Helm Glacier when it was photographed in the 1920s, and now to see it now is shocking. And all the other glaciers are receding as well. I'm so passionate about this park, and it's this unexplained thing. So somehow I've connected to it and it's connected to me. And what I hope for the future is that government agencies, volunteers, public sector, private businesses will all work together to educate and propel things forward.
Garibaldi's glaciers and volcanoes have been around for thousands of years, but their time may be coming to an end. Garibaldi Provincial Park may be feeling the heat, but further north, there is another kind of warm-up so unique, park visitors travel great distances to see it. Liard River Hot Springs Provincial Park lies in the remote corner of northeastern British Columbia, not far from the Yukon border. The park is more than 900 square kilometers. This vast open space allows wildlife to roam free. Once on the verge of extinction, the Norquist wood bison was reintroduced to Liard 20 years ago. Today, bison sightings at the park are common. Visitors can view this massive animal leisurely feeding on a rich supply of food near the side of the Alaska Highway. This famed stretch of roadway, built by the United States Army in 1942, was designed to connect Alaska to the rest of the continental United States.
The Alaska Highway is the land lifeline to Alaska, all of Alaska and the Yukon, so just about everything they have up there, grocery-wise, supply-wise, and otherwise, comes up by the Alaska Highway. From mid-May till mid-September, all the way through, that's when we have the tourist traffic on the highway. We're at mile 496 on the Alaska Highway, which is about a 3.5 4-hour drive north of Fort Nelson, which is the most northerly town and the closest town in the province of BC.
The landscape is scattered with a network of ponds, rivers, and swamps, but a closer look reveals a series of hot springs. The most accessible hot spring is the park's main attraction, the Alpha Pool. This naturally occurring hot spring is Canada's second largest and one of the few areas in the park which is developed.
We have a dam damming up the water there, so it's about 4 feet deep. And our brand new facility that we deck and change house that we installed last year.
The hot springs are open year-round and provide a consistent temperature between 42 and 52 degrees Celsius. The heat of the water offers a sharp contrast to the air temperatures, which drop to minus 40 degrees in winter. For decades, the original source of the water remained unknown.
A few years ago, we got the mandate to try to understand what was behind the hot spring. And so we looked at the region, and we also looked at the chemistry of the water, and we tried to solve the puzzle. We looked at the fingerprints of the water. We looked at the isotopes, and we were able to confirm that it was actually meteoric water. It was rainwater that was the source of the hot spring. But rainwater is not warm, so how did the water get warm? The water was coming from surface on the ridge to the north of the hot spring, and it got into the fractures of the bedrock. It's limestone there. It goes down to a depth of about 3.4 kilometers, reaches a temperature of 120 degrees, and from there it finds its way back to surface. As it is recharged from the ridge, it's like under pressure given by the elevation of the ridge, and this pressure provides the energy, the momentum to push this water up to surface.
This rare phenomena also influences the climate within the park. Ecologists believe the area has become pre-adapted to tolerate higher temperatures due to the constant warmth of the hot springs. To the east of Liard Hot Springs is the province of Manitoba, home to a frozen tundra signaling a warning about climate change. In a remote corner of northeast Manitoba lies Wapusk National Park. Here, park visitors are few and far between. The park is difficult to access. Wapusk is a subarctic tundra. The ground is permanently frozen, even in the summer. Wapusk's subarctic location means it is one of the first places on the planet to show the effects of a warming climate.
And we know that these kinds of landscapes are particularly vulnerable because the Arctic is warming faster than the rest of the world.
The park is named after one of its most famous residents, the polar bear. A changing climate has put their survival in jeopardy. Rising temperatures are wreaking havoc with the polar bear's ability to den and find food.
One of the consequences of global climate change in this part of the world is that the sea ice is melting earlier each year. And the sea ice is something that polar bears, which are iconic for this national park, are dependent on. And when the sea ice fully breaks, they can no longer hunt seals in their traditional manner.
The result is a lower reproductive rate. Those that do survive are in for the fight of their lives.
The time for bears to fatten up before coming ashore is shorter, so there's been an observed decline in the weight of bears coming ashore.
"20 years ago, there were 1,200 polar bears at Wapusk. Today, there are 935.
This is an area that's undergone some of the greatest warmth in the circumpolar north of the last 50 years. This is a large, complex wetland, one of the largest peatlands in the world.
Scientists believe airborne greenhouse gases are the largest contributor to a warming planet.
More snow melt, it might really change which way the gases are going, and this is one of the big unknowns that about where we're headed. You know, are we, as the Arctic warms, is it going to enhance the greenhouse effect and make the Earth warm even faster?
The global environment is changing. The best analogy is you had a finely tuned Porsche and it worked really well, and you were out and you had the local mechanic at the local Esso station work on it, and he tuned it up again with a Phillips head screwdriver and a crescent wrench, and now it's a little bit out of whack, and the longer you drive it, the more out of whack it gets. And fundamentally, that's what's happened.
Researchers continue to study the effects of this global epidemic, while Canada's park system and all of its beloved wildlife try to adapt.
This park is part of the heritage of British Columbia, really. It's part of our character, it's part of our value, and we have to treat it as a treasure.
I'm the only area supervisor ranger in the province that has wood bison, you know, and to me they're just such a special animal and it's such a special place to work. Not just the bison, of course, it's all these amazing parks and amazing scenery and features we have, but these critters are definitely an interesting part of what I end up having to do for work, and pretty much spoiled me for working anywhere else.
Canada's national park system, I think, is the envy of much of the world. Our national parks, national marine conservation areas, and national historic sites protect and present the best of what this country has to offer and what this country is really all about.